It's a mobile
Snorlax.
biological reservoir. It eats to survive and
Snore
prepares for a
fucking
massive
lags.
transformation. In nature, vulnerability always attracts the most ruthless predators. The protective instinct is the spark that triggers latent evolution. This bond generates a powerful frequency of biological energy. Cellular structures expand rapidly. A new giant is born. Snorlax, the embodiment of stillness and the immense weight of nature. Now, its heartbeat synchronizes with the pulse of the land. It is no longer an individual. It has become an ecosystem. Its gastric juices dissolve any toxin, turning waste into pure energy. But peace is always fragile before the wrath of nature. The aggressive wildfire is devouring everything in its path. Deep sleep becomes a deadly barrier in this desperate situation. A specific sound is the only key to waking the mountain. When the giant awakens, the very ground beneath it trembles. The massive frame becomes the world's most solid fortress. The thick fat ability turns its skin into a shield against hellfire. It doesn't fight fire with water, but with pressure and weight. Every roll is a sacrifice to protect what remains of the green. Heroes need no words. They only need to stand against the storm. Nature finally soothes the pain of its silent protectors. Mission complete. Energy must now be restored through deep slumber. Laziness is in fact a long accumulation for decisive moments. A new generation continues, carrying the instinct of kindness. Peace always has a price, and Snorlax is the one who pays. Even the laziest of gods carry a noble mission. In the unforgiving depths of the ocean, beauty is often a luxury, but survival is a relentless chore.
Magikarp.
Meet Feebas, widely regarded as the most unsightly creature in the marine world, a species forgotten by evolution.
Yeah, see, I don't give no fuck about none of this.
EVE Online is a
Driven by an invisible longing for connection, this solitary being begins its journey toward the brilliant light. But in the kingdom of the elite, there is no place for one with such a wretched and weak appearance. Rejection turns it into a target for the cruel games of predators who see its presence as a blemish. A pod of Palafin hunts not for hunger, but uses the suffering of the weak to display their own dominance. Behind those dull eyes lies a resilient soul, enduring the humiliation of the self-righteous. To them, Feebas is nothing more than a lifeless toy, a pathetic entity with a bitter taste that saves it from being eaten. However, fate always knows how to test the compassion within creatures turned away by the world. A Milotic, the pinnacle of aquatic grace, is ensnared. Her light is fading against the suffocating grip of human debris. Opportunistic scavengers approach, their mindless curiosity only deepening the legendary creature's agony. For the first time, one who only knew how to flee chooses to fight back to protect a life more precious than its own. Pain has been its long-time companion, and Feebas has learned to stand when the world wants it to fall. With all its accumulated heat, it scorches the artificial barrier, determined to break the chains binding freedom. In a final burst, the strength of its despair shakes the very boundaries of life and death. The price of salvation is total exhaustion. The unsightly fish sinks into darkness after completing a noble mission. In response to the purest heart, the Ocean Guardian bestows the scale carrying the power of light and time. A divine biological reaction is triggered, shattering the crude shell to release the beauty that was always destined. Ordinary scales shed, giving way to shimmering silk veils, symbols of nobility and ultimate power. Those who once mocked it can now only bow before the presence of a newly reborn legend. True beauty was never absent. It was merely waiting for a heart brave enough to reveal it. In the deep blue, the most humble beginning has led to the most magnificent end.
Deep beneath the earth, inside an abandoned laboratory, a synthetic life form approaches the final stage of its creation. Pain gives way to a new state of awareness. Everything around it is classified as either a tool or a threat. Even in its unstable state, latent psychic power manifests as destructive force, tearing through metal and machinery with ease. Subtle ripples announce the arrival of something massive moving through the cave system. Agron, a territorial native species, emerges from the shadows, its steel armor scarred from years of dominance. The encounter marks a clash between two forms of power, overwhelming mass and concentrated psychic density. Agron's enormous momentum is halted instantly, sending a shockwave through its skeletal and metallic structures. Denied physical contact, Agron resorts to ranged defense, generating a concentrated blast of metallic energy. In a high PSI environment, such energy becomes unstable, warped, compressed, and neutralized by Mewtwo's will alone. Agron's greatest evolutionary advantage, its colossal mass, becomes a liability when suspended effortlessly in psychic force. Thrown across the cavern, Agron becomes living proof of the vast gulf between engineered power and natural evolution. Mewtwo ends the conflict without seeking a kill. It does not feed, nor does it hunt. It merely redefines the hierarchy. Brief flashes of Mew, the genetic source of its existence, appear as ancestral memory rather than personal recollection. Mewtwo makes its first contact with the weaker creatures of the ecosystem. Its response is not to attack, but to observe, a strategy of sensing its environment, assessing life forms as non-threatening. At the base of the waterfall, Mewtwo entered a meditative state, a necessary self-regulation after long exposure to the open environment.
At the highest levels of the atmosphere, nature's forces are silently accumulating immense energy. Three legendary entities, representing ice, lightning, and fire, begin their journey to maintain the planet's balance.
Whoa. What's that?
Whoa!
I just built a budgeting app
Shut
in
up.
base 44. Guys, we need to
As air currents conflict, the world below must prepare for the presence of gods. Articuno, the incarnation of eternal winter, controls atmospheric humidity through crystal-like feathers. At the Seafoam Islands, the harshness of frost can be an enemy, but it can also be salvation. As it flaps to lower the ambient temperature, it creates a protective structure from the very harshness of winter. Mission complete. The Guardian of Frost vanishes once more into the mountain mist. Meanwhile, within human ruins, another source of energy seeks release. Zapdos acts as a living lightning rod,
Back. So bad.
absorbing ionized particles to recharge its body. Each feather is a biological capacitor capable of storing millions of volts in a single flash. It moves like an electric pulse through the atmosphere, dominating the night sky with brutal, flickering light. In lands where the cold reigns too long, If begins within the molten heat of the Earth's core. Moltres, the fire deity, the heat from its body can be felt from miles away, the embodiment of thermal conversion, carrying the warmth necessary for germination. Its appearance signals the end of winter. It is the biological catalyst for rebirth. Moltres of fire is not just to burn, but to light the path for rebirth. At the intersection of three worlds, an absolute balance is about to be restored. When the three deities converge, all climatic conflicts are neutralized by energy resonance. This is the dance of the elements, keeping this planet from falling into ruin due to extreme weather. A new cycle begins in peace, witnessing the power of the Sky Guardians. The last remaining marks, reminding the world that balance is always protected from above. All is part of the grand cycle of life.
In this ecology, the ancient tree is the biological anchor, where grass-type Pokémon have thrived for centuries. This is Treecko. It possesses a rare stoicism, an absolute self-control in every situation. An incursion is underway. Salazzle, the poison fire reptile, leaves a trail of fire and toxic gas. Treecko exhibits defiance. Bravery is not absence of fear, but this may be a biological miscalculation. Treecko's adhesion capability defies gravity. Its tail registers the extreme desiccation and stress vibrations.
All right.
The intruder carries potent toxins. Treecko must rely on agility and ambush tactics. Pheromonal exposure makes the environment physiologically toxic. A diversionary attack provides a window for repositioning. Exhaustion is setting in. Every breath is a struggle against hypoxia and extreme thermal pressure. The living pillar is collapsing. Centuries of history are about to end in a single moment. Territorial instinct shifts into biological desperation. This physical exertion has broken the limit. The life cycle nears its end without immediate adaptation. Survival requires an extreme physiological response. The pressure of death activates forced metamorphosis. Biology is desperately attempting to self-regulate. This is Grovyle, a jungle warrior, defined by speed and destructive precision. The ending of the heritage created a new guardian. Speed is the new biological weapon. Grovyle uses its power to neutralize. Self-control remains, but power is magnified. The threat is eliminated. The intruder realizes this new opponent exceeds its capacity. The mission is accomplished. Despite the loss, life always finds a path to renewal. This is the shift from territory guardian to the seed carrier, assuming biological responsibility. The path to Sceptile is a long journey of rebirth and protection. This individual proves that coolness is the mask for a warrior's heart.
Deep within Mount Silver